Hey, everybody. I'm sitting here doing work. I'm like, hey, I just need one more thing to do. Well, that's the way the day goes today, everybody. Welcome so much. Hey, everybody. It's Unconscious Medium Brain and Russ. Thank you so much. I'm having it. Did I at least freeze for a little bit? Did I at least freeze for like a half a minute? So, what I was looking up is a little bit of PowerPoint here, and I'm going to share with you guys. Thanks. Thank you for giving me a heads up. Go ahead and say anything about snot. Anyways, thanks thanks so much, guys. What'd you think of that Super Bowl? What'd you think of that ridiculousness? What did you think about that game that wasn't really a game? I mean, I thought the NFL had a script. I thought that the world was kind of like I don't know. I thought it was supposed to all be predetermined. I thought it was supposed to be easy. I thought it was supposed to be like, do you believe in it or don't you? Did you gamble on it? Do you know anybody that won money yesterday? I mean, I didn't. I missed out by a last minute touchdown and then a last minute field goal. It's all right. Squares. Went to a softball league. I'm all right with losing. We don't mind losing if it's a good cause, right? But don't we also miss the days when stuff, cash money? Look at that, $250. Huh? That's pretty good. She must have won she was either in a really, really big one or she went to, or she won one of the big, she either won the whole thing or whatever. It's funny. I have a couple of things to share with you here. And I have some Florida dates. I have one that is confirmed. I have another that I will be announcing probably tomorrow. I wasn't comfortable with talk. We're bantering back and forth. Like we're on the same page. We just have to touch base. I don't want her to turn around and be like, you can come here, but you can't have blue eyes. And I'll be like, I can't do that. Like, why would I not have blue eyes? Right. So I want to make sure that that's just kind of underway, but up in the Tampa Clearwater area, I'm going to see you as well, but I certainly want to announce that I'm a functional illiterate. I didn't know when my camera was on. That was really precious, really. You get right down to it. It's like, By the way, that's what it looks like behind the scenes. I grab my coffee, I clear the pipes, get done, get out of the way, and then here we go. So one of the things that I actually thought people were going to jump on, which it's all good. This isn't about me necessarily, but I have an online message circle coming up next Thursday. It is the 20th. And part of the reason why I'm doing that is because I know that I'm getting out there more. I'm here to tell you, I'm going to a lot of places. And I will also tell you that Canada, I will see you. I will not say where in Canada yet. I will also tell you Florida. This is twofold. This time it's going to be on the West Coast primarily. Next time I come, it'll be more on the East Coast. Again, that has a lot to do with the books that are coming out because of the relationships that I have. I'm going to be in a really cool place. I'm going to show this. Bear with me for 30 seconds, do my own advertising here because nobody else speaks for me. I have to say it myself. I'm going to be at Mystic Sisters in Port Charlotte. By the way, if you've never been to Port Charlotte, beautiful. Punta Gorda, Port Charlotte, Fort Myers, home of the Minnesota Twins spring training. It's a beautiful area. It's really well kept. It seems to miss the hurricanes a lot of times. And again, not that it hasn't been affected. I don't want to, bestow that, but they seem to recover quicker. So maybe the damage isn't quite as much or whatever. I'm going to be there. Great. Jen has been super responsive. Jen has been great. And by the way, I want to thank you guys for sending me your suggestions. One of them is proving fruition. Again, I just want to make sure it's good to go. And then on February the 20th, I'm going to be doing an online circle. This is a chance to hang out with me and actually have a conversation. I know that this is kind of a little bit one-sided where I'm just kind of doing my shtick here and kind of carrying on, but this is a chance for me to be able to deliver a personal reading, be able to connect within it. It's a great kind of group thing. You never know how group dynamics are going to go. You never know when you're going to hear somebody else's story. That's really cool as well. I was at a home party this weekend, and this woman's father-in-law was the Vienna police chief during occupation from the late 30s to the late 40s, and he actually got everybody out. It was an amazing read. It was awesome. So you never know what you're going to find when you come into these groups and so forth. And then of course here locally, I'm at Muddy's actually this Sunday. I can't believe, is it Valentine's Day? Is it Valentine's Day? Is it Valentine's Day? I think it is. By the way, if you go to my website, I also have out there as well. I actually have a couple of other dates that I haven't necessarily pushed. I'm also going to be up at our good friends at Nurture Salon. Lisa is going to be hosting me for the first time ever in Saratoga. It's the first show I've done in Saratoga in almost 3 years, which I can't believe. Saratoga is kind of like the thirst trap of the area here in upstate New York because, it looks great, and then you get involved and you're like, oh, whatever. The venues up there tend to be like ridiculously expensive. So you got to put on a big show, and that's not what it's kind of been. You know what I mean? Yeah, look at that. Gonna do a shout out to you guys. So listen, locally in upstate New York, you can see me here in Muddy's. And by the way, Muddy's has been under new ownership here for about 3 years. They've really got a cool thing going. They win awards for their food stuff. It's a lot of fun. Message Circle next Thursday. Come hang out with me. I only let a handful of people in. It's kind of fun. And then, of course, when I get down to Florida, March 13th, I'm also going to have another date for March for that weekend. Yeah, Hattie, I'm going to actually address that here in a second. Thanks for bringing it up. Yeah, I'm going to be back down in Florida later on in the year because my Cassadaga connections actually want me to have my books out, which is cool, which is totally cool. Like I was trying to squeeze it all in, and, my dad's coming with me on this trip, which is great. But I will be in Cassadaga probably late September or early November. So I have 2 kind of windows that I'll be back down there, and I will be there. And of course, our old friend Janet is down there. I didn't call you old, Janet. I just said you were somebody I used to know. Anyways, it's really, you really learn a lot about the temperature of things, right? By the way, those of you that follow me on Facebook and other social media things know that I'm a little bit annoyed with what's going on there, right? And we have a, oh my gosh, I'll be there on your 43rd wedding anniversary. Well, Debbie, I'd love to connect with you. And by the way, I love to kind of close circuit it and not make it a public harangue, but to say like, hey, I'm going to hang out at the baseball game. I'll be at the Twins game, or I'll be at the Red Sox game, or whatever. Like, I don't mind letting my friends know to say, hey, why don't we stop by, have a chat, talk for sure, that sort of thing. I can't always, this is one of the challenges that I've had in like managing this, because I have good friends that I've committed to see as well. And it's awesome. Like it's an awesome problem to have. I also don't want to overload my dad. I want my dad to kind of enjoy himself. Like we're going for the baseball and the sunshine and the food and as my grandfather, his father would say, well, just doing some PW, which is code for people watching. Anyways, hey Tony, how are you? Janet just gave you a shout out there. Yeah, Kathy, you like the Def Leppard shirt? It's so funny. I've had this for a while. I haven't thrown it on here. Yeah, I know I'm freezing a little bit. And then of course it's probably frozen too because I just ripped half of my face off. Leslie, how you doing? Good to see you. Kay Eric, I know who you are. Anami, good to see you. Black Bell, great to see you as always. Yeah, I got to agree with you. That front four in Philly was redonkulous. Like when you only rush 4 people and you can drop everybody back. And by the way, let's have an honest conversation about Cooper DeJean, who is the coolest cornerback in the league right now. I cannot believe he made it to the second round, but that's just me. Yeah, didn't watch it. Like I tell everybody, I didn't get that lesbian gene. Yeah, me neither. Oh wait, maybe I did. Critics will converge. Michelle, good to see you as well. Yeah, I mean, commentary on the game yesterday. The one thing. Hey, Donna, how are you? Deb, good to see you. Shar, thank you. Yeah, good to see you guys out there. So, yeah, the game itself was kind of and I don't know, if there's things to kind of recognize. Hey, Rita, how are you? But all of the commercials, they fit foodstuffs. I'll wait till I'm unfrozen. I got to fix this somehow. GMO food finance companies. And then the third category was kind of the self-grandizing. It was either the NFL, it was the Fox, promoting its next thing, or some sort of nonprofit to, hey, make us look good. I thought the breast cancer awareness commercial was actually really well done for a whole host of reasons. It kept my son captivated. He's like looking at the TV like this. He's like, Dad, are you seeing this? By the way, it was a bunch of boobs. It was just basically women kind of flaunting their stuff, showing their things, putting them in different positions and so forth and so on. He was intrigued, and then he was vanished for about a half hour. But anyways, I digress. Either way, the sheets have been done. Last but not least, though, I thought what was really kind of cool about it is that it was that attention grabbing thing with respect still to women. It was basically like, hey, we know you look, but my eyes are up here. And it's funny, I make that joke in my shows all the time where I stand in front of somebody. I'm like, hey, lady, listen, my eyes are up here. And it just puts them into, it's just fun. It's just fun. I'm just having fun with it. So I kind of get why they would have that sort of joke. I read an article this morning about how, a little angry, huh, Tony? Hey, Mary Beth, how are you? Yeah, 5 minutes in the fourth quarter was actually pretty entertaining. Hey, Lily, how are you? But yeah, I mean, I never understood anti-ism. It's like I want to go up against the best, and maybe this is just a competitor in me. This is somebody that has hit home runs against major league players that would eventually become major league players. Like I like that level of competition. Like I might go down swinging and I might miss, but give me the chance to go up against the best person, right? I don't want to win because your best player can't go, type of thing. Well, I think a lot of it was, the kid on the 22nd birthday for the Eagles got a touchdown. That's the kid I was talking about, Cooper DeJean. Boy, is he going to be something else. He's kind of like, remember a couple of years ago, oh God, he married Angie Harmon, Jason Sehorn. He's very Jason Sehornish, super athletic, has a lot of football smarts, sees the field well. He's a great player. The Eagles are incredibly fortunate to have him in Saquon Barkley. But anyways, so, the game itself, though, highly not motivating. But if you watch it, it is GMO-based food. Your Doritos, your Pepsis, your Bud Lights, your blah, 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 blah. And then you have all the finance companies. Well, the finance companies are packaged in another way that you don't even realize that they are 100% a finance company. Verizon Wireless does not supply your cell phone service. I'm sorry, what, Brandon? Verizon is a cell phone company. No, it is not. The ones that run the ads and make you buy it are finance companies. You don't think so? Look at your bill. It's 100% finance. You have finance charges on your bill every month where they say, hey, no hidden fees. They tell you right up front, hey, just to let you know, we don't have any hidden fees and we're kind of full of shit ourselves. Huh? And then I think, I'm sorry, coulda, woulda, shoulda. Was that you with the lesbian gene there? The blessing of it, though, is that they have to kind of do that little disclaimer at the bottom so you can always tell the difference. and there was another thing that was it was like a homes.com or something where it's like, we can't say homes.com and blah, 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 all that other stuff, right? And in the scheme of it, though, what I thought was funny was that, and there's always a couple of pretty okay commercials. There were a couple of them that I kind of belly laughed about. They were pretty good. There was the one where the guy was always putting himself in positions, and the Matthew McConaughey ones, and all that other good stuff. And they're mildly, whatever. But gone are the days, like in 1984, when remember when Apple had this big theatrical thing that basically broke out from 1985. Like, we don't have social commentary anymore in our commercials. We really don't. I mean, the breasts for cancer awareness, I thought was very good. Oh, by the way, the article that I read this morning basically talked about how all of those things were actually on the chopping block if they weren't already paid. If the check had not actually cleared for them to have a Super Bowl ad, that would have been gone, because it was directly related to federal funds in order for awareness programs. By the way, get ready for all of the awareness programs. Get ready for any of the education programs that might go along with anything from women's health to to general public health awareness. And I want to get ahead of this, and I also want to say something too. I've noticed that all of you realize how pissed I am. It's been by design. And if you follow my social media stuff, I tend to pick fights with people that, first of all, I know I can win, and second of all, I know I can't win all at the same time. And I want to say a word about that. Some of it came from a place of being a little bit angry. I mean, it was genuine. It was authentic. I'm not going to backtrack and say, oh, yeah, no. But I also have the lever in my body to say, no, don't. Don't get that abused. They want to come. They want to hang out. They want to be, not that I want it to be a love fest, but I want I want this to be a sanctuary conversation, right? Let us kind of connect and grow and what have you. And the part of it that I kept going back to, aside from me freezing every 30 seconds, this is just insane. By the way, no other platform that I work on does this. And I think also what's happening is that there is a buffer stream thing that I'm not recognizing. So this is on me. I'm going to figure it out. Oh, by the way, also the people in Los Alamos, thanks for checking the channel on Saturday morning at about 4:30 a.m. I track. You're tracking me. I'm going to track. I can, as we say in the industry, I see you. But I want to tell you where the anger came from, because I don't think that is fair. Sometimes we meet people and they're angry, and we don't always necessarily know why. And there is a portion of this that's genuine fear-based. I am afraid. The children that I have adopted, and by the way, they have gone through several layers of protections. They have gone through the layer of protection of being born in this country, the 14th Amendment. They have gone through the layer of being adopted legally through Legal Means and Accounting Resource Association. They have a stable, loving environment, and they are accomplishing everything that they should. They're not in trouble. There's no shenanigans. There's none of that stuff, right? And what I recognize, and where the fear-based is when all of those protections that I just talked about, all the money that we spent on lawyers, all of the T's that were crossed and the I's that were dotted, can be eliminated tomorrow because of the normalness of who we are is being obstructed, right? We're throwing things out. Department of Education, who needs that? Let's just create a group of people that are unelected, unqualified, and otherwise nefarious, and just give them the keys to the castle, and just get rid of whatever it is that they have unfettered access. We don't, whatever. I know that things went on in government and military, things that were nefarious that we never heard about. And then it would be shock and awe when we would hear it, right? We would hear about waterboarding, or we would hear about torture or money laundering or whatever. Insert bad behavior here. The Rubicon that we have crossed, truly, the Rubicon that we have crossed is that even the things that are the most blatant, in your face, take it for granted statements are gone. When the President of the United States, I'm going to air quote that shit, when the President of the United States is held to account with evidence, due process, and a conviction, and it is rendered to be something little more than a piece of paper that he can just ignore, for him not to stand up for accountability. I mean, we've learned so much in the last 7 years. We've learned that all of our processes are kind of optional. They're all optional. I mean, how much further do we have to slip down to all of a sudden make the things that we take for granted in our neighborhoods assume that they'll be there? I mean, how long until like stoplights are just a suggestion? And you're like, well, there's some intersections where they already are. Like, how long is that going to be for a police officer to take a look at you and say, you know what, I don't like your kind? You know what wasn't recognized was that the good people in the world were actually making progress. We were actually raising an awareness or what have you. Now, I can also talk for hours about how we went overboard. I can tell you that, you know what, the whole woke thing kind of got out of control, but we also lost the narrative because we didn't define it to begin with, because we just caught lightning in a bottle. It's what you do when you're a good person. You're like, okay, this is good, let's run with it. But then as it gets twisted is, and like, the point wasn't that somebody that was trans be able to define what their actual gender was going to be in their time and definition, and to be able to participate in the opposite sex sports and that sort of thing. It went off the rails. And that's what people got. I mean, literally, there are 3 athletes that claim that they were women that competed and won. 3. And that was all they needed for a movement. That's it. We have a felon, an alcoholic, an anger management challenge. We have somebody that kills bears in public parks. We have somebody that has collusion with Russia. We have a plethora of things that are right up front, and they're just running the red light. Right? Mm-hmm. We begin to recognize that we're just trying to be good people. And where my frustration came from is, I know your stories. I know where society's kind of snub their nose at you. I know where you've struggled and overcome things, whether it's a person, right? No kidding, Tracy. I love that. Hey, Sonia, how are you? Diane, good to see you. But it's interesting because a lot of this stuff comes down to, let's just say the commissioner or whatever that league was to say, listen, I don't want to be, I'm not anti-transgender. I just don't think it's appropriate that somebody that has exterior plumbing plays an interior plumbing sport. Like, let's just get literal here, right? And it was a series of people that didn't stand up to him. You can say whatever you want about Liz Cheney. I don't agree with probably 70% of her politics, but she did the right thing. Adam Kinzinger did the right thing. Mike Pence did the right thing. Where are those cowboys? They're getting overrun and they're being thrown out of Dodge. That's why I'm mad. Because what they've done is just calculatedly decide how they want this to go. I'm sorry, you're going to eliminate the Department of Education You're going to put Linda McMahon in charge of it, who, by the way, is currently in litigation for not one but several sexual offenses. By the way, it's not just men, everybody. I mean, it's like it's his ilk. It's his bidding. It's his people. And then we have this nearly perfect system of checks and balances, but not when you have collusion. In the last 3 years, all of the people that were standing up to him have left. There's a senator by the name of Buck who's in Colorado. You may know him because Laura Boebert, jumped seats because she was so unpopular in her hometown that she moved 2 districts over to run for his because she had name recognition, but whatever. Oh, and she won. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're given a handy in a school play anymore. Whatever. And listen, I'm not judging her. I just don't think she should be in charge of any part of the budget. And there's a difference. Because anytime you say, hey, we have irrefutable evidence of what happened on January 6th. We have irrefutable evidence about documents that should have been protected. And now we're finding out that he was trying to do a pay-for-play trade for them. And that's when they said, so you're saying you have them? We need to get those back. He didn't want the Russia dossier out there anymore. I mean, it's thrill and kill stuff, right? Is being able to say, like, I'll pay for this to make it go away. It's all he's ever known. And I can't even fault him anymore. I can't even fault him. He is what he is. And we gave him power. We gave him power because we complained about him every day. We wanted him to go away, and all we did was bring him back. It's kind of like making a house call to your tormentor. What good is that? What good is that? We did it. We talked about him. We let him be in the consciousness. So let's try something new. I know not the hour nor the place. I don't know how long any of us are here. I really don't. Except for that one time. That was a little weird. And that's when I had a little powwow with my spirit guides. And I'm like, hey, listen, I don't want to know. They're like, we thought that was the sign to let us know, like, hey, Tuesday isn't good. I'm like, I don't want to know that stuff, right? But I do know that the next generation is going to need us to do the right things. The next generation is going to need us to be the Austrian police chief that sneaks people over the Alps in the middle of the night. I know that the next generation is going to need some of us to step up into greatness, whatever that looks like. Whatever that looks like, right? But let's look at the long haul. Let's pretend we live forever. How do you want this to look? Do you want to be seen as the angry, anti-vigilant, clever yet angry person that wins every argument? But what does that mean? I went through a phase, and I do call it a phase, where I knew every bit of the Rush Limbaugh playbook. And I knew every bit of the Reaganite trickle down economics. And guys, listen, my existence and dipping my toe in just right of center is not necessarily, it's not a source of villainous. It was okay, but how do we still care about people? How do we still get there, right? Because you can recognize that when you care about somebody, you can be fiduciarily responsible too. That was really my vibe. right? And what I began to notice was that I was being recruited for hate. I was being recruited to talk down to people that might have different ideas. And this entire movement, by the right now, I started well into the late 70s, if not earlier, but let's just go back there. Let's just go back to the time that I was here. And that idea of being able to say, taxes are for the poor. Like, in what philosophical society does any of that work? And do you remember when Forbes came out and basically said, listen, we're going to do a 10% tax across the board? It was the most logical answer anyone had ever seen, right? And the reason why it was logical is because it didn't discriminate. It actually took out all the discriminating factors. It didn't care what your race was, what your identity was, what your nationality was coming into it. If you work here, we take 10%. And what we do with that 10%, think of it as a donation to your roads, to your safety, to your advancements. One of the things that everybody is celebrating on that side is how much corruption they found. And somebody had made a post, and I stood up against it. And it basically said every single one of the line items were actually connected to humanitarian aid, because USAID, that's what they did. They did humanitarian aid. Now, was it packaged because so-and-so, because a legislature got paid off to talk on their behalf, so then they got the money? Maybe. I mean, maybe that is part of the problem. Did it come from not a good place? Possibly. But the altruistic nature of what we were doing, whether it be giving $70,000 to a once upon a time defunct Irish theater that needed renovations, that happened to host a transgender play. And by the way, have you ever seen a play that has not had anyone that was gay, lesbian, queer, trans, or otherwise? No, I'm here to tell you none of them. You have never seen a school play to a theatrical Broadway play. There is at least one, if not the majority, of the people that are going through some sort of personal identification transition, or they are in the place of knowing who they are and they identify as a particular under that bracket. Now, why would I get annoyed by that? You push them into a corner. You, society, we're all part of it. Push them into the corner. And our life pre-45 was set up on little sections of the world that would slowly expand. It was the compromise. When you think of LGBTQ rights, it's a compromise, everybody. When you look at somebody that has come from a place of segregation, right? And by the way, before 1865, we were a slave-run nation. We were running slavery trade. Since 1865 to about 1968, it was apartheid, everybody. Separate but equal. Remember how we marched and marched for Mandela? You remember that? Remember when we work at a place, Sun City? And then all of a sudden, we're like, what is this apartheid stuff? We were only 20 years away from it ourselves, guys. I mean, for crying out loud, there was a place in South Troy, right? Oh gosh, what was the name of it? But it had the ladies' entrance sign because the ladies couldn't come through the bar. The ladies could only come in through the restaurant, and that had a ladies only sign. I'm going to share a story with you because when I was in 8th grade, we kind of had an Billie Jean King. Oh God, what was his name? We had a little duel going on. And Erin was the preppy girl, and she was really good at sports. She was actually a really good basketball player. And I, in my, comeuppance, started to recognize that, boy, she's pretty good. And she was just like, we're a better ball player than, I'm a better ball player than you are. And in a moment of honesty, Erin worked hard. Erin's dad would take her out back and shoot the hoops and so forth and so on. There were inadequacies in my game that were left and right because, I'd have a game on Saturday and I might not touch the ball again until the following Saturday. And that's not how you get better. I know that now. But in the meantime, everybody was kind of like, oh, well, why can't a girl be on the boys' team? Well, quite frankly, when you're in 8th grade, it's because they actually worked harder and they were going to shame you. And as a charity thing, every year we do the boys against the girls. It was kind of a fun thing. And by the way, these are the types of barn burners you would have. It would be like 22 to 24, right? So if you scored 6 points, you were the leading scorer. And guess what? You were something else. You're the one that they would guard. And through the course of all of that, what I started to recognize was that they're two totally different games, right? By the way, 3 years from there, you weren't going to have that. You weren't going to have boys versus girls. Because guess what? I shot up. I shot up another 3-4 inches. Erin didn't. Her ball handling got better. Her shooting might have even gotten better. But she wasn't going to take me in the paint anymore. But at that sweet spot of that 11, 12 years old, where you're just kind of like, where you're like, yeah, we're all still kind of, how you doing, everybody? Catching bullfrogs. Can I have this dance, Darla? You're like in that innocent time, right? That was a time where men and women's sports are actually somewhat, competitive a little bit. And by the way, they beat us like 3 years in a row. But I wasn't going to be outdone because Bobby Riggs, thank you very much, Trish. The following year, to the chagrin of my basketball coach, who, by the way, finally said, you're actually getting better. What are you practicing? I told him I was going to miss practice one day, and he says, why? I said, well, I'm trying out for another sport. It's basketball. It's the middle of winter. What are you thinking? Soccer's over. Football would have been over. I was like, what are you doing? I think I'm going to be a cheerleader. You what? You want to be a cheerleader? Yeah. Yeah, because, if anything that a woman can do, a man can do as well. I think I can go out there and try out for the cheerleading team. I'm going to tell you that the cheerleading coach had no idea what to do with me. Nothing. I went out there and I'm like, so let me get this straight. There's a couple of reasons to do this, right? So the whole thing in the hetero nature of sports and development and that sort of thing, you'd have the cheerleaders pick out somebody on the team, and then they would shout him out, and they would be like, hey, we're here to win. We just want to get again. Go Brandon, or whatever, right? So I said, so when I make the team, and by the way, you can't not let me win on the team. Like, you can't let me not be on the team. That would be wrong. Do I get to choose one of the boys? And do I have to say that? Do I have to be like, yay, Georgie? Well, that's weird for everybody. By the way, full disclosure, and since we're in confession and we're away from the time of, since we're in the time of not only forgiveness, but statute of limitations, I'll just say it tongue in cheek. If you're going to let the rooster in the hen house, it's going to be a good time. So as much as people start going, hey, you're gay, you're this and that, you're you're going to be a cheerleader, huh? And there we go. So let me get this straight. Instead of hanging out with you sweaty nutsacks all night, I get to hang out with the girls over here. Go team. I'll let you figure that out. But ultimately, though, it ended up being a conversation, right? It ended up being a conversation of I made my point. I made my point on several levels. First of all, the girls kind of went like, that was kind of crazy, and wow, you did that. The guys on my team were just like, I can't believe you were like that. You don't sit next to me, when we travel anymore. And, I don't want to be in the same locker room as you. And then when I held up, a person's number, And I said, how about them apples? And they went, no. And I'm like, yeah. Once I exposed myself as a double operative, everybody was like, he's good. He's good. Just having fun. That being said, the season was different from then on because I watched Aaron, who was a very good player. I'm going to tell you what happened. I had never gone to their games before. And then I asked a very simple question. Why do the boys get cheerleaders and the girls don't? So whenever I could, I'd go and I'd see their games. By the way, Aaron's a very cool person. We've had a relationship our entire lives now. She has a beautiful daughter. She takes care of her mother. I mean, she's class act all the way. 10 out of 10 human. But in that time, she used to pull my hair and be a snot. I'd call her preppy like it was an insult. And at the end of the day, what happened was this like insane mutual respect because she sent me a note when the adoption stuff happened. She's like, I cannot tell you how happy I am that you are here. But we went through conflict. We had to manage that conflict, and it was societal. We had society, men versus girls, boys versus girls, men versus women. We were literally the Billie Jean King, Bobby Riggs scenario at St. Agnes Middle School, right? The teachers were even rolling their eyes going, how do we get into this spot, right? Coaches were like, this is nuts. I'll tell you what happened. Through that strife, we had conflict resolution and appreciation for one another. This has nothing to do with Trump. This has everything to do with where we were at 10 years ago. And we were so worried about offending everybody. And we were so worried about being lambasted to be shown like, oh, you're anti-trans and you're whatever. That practicality of the situation went out there. By the way, I wasn't going to join the cheerleading squad. I love basketball too much. I wanted to get out there and play, but I wanted to prove a point. And by the way, I learned more watching that girls' basketball season than I did doing anything else. I remember going back to the our practice and saying, hey, what if we did this? We seem to be picking low, which doesn't give a lot of room. The girls pick out on top, which gives it plenty of space. And if somebody can dribble, if you can get 2 good dribbles in, you're going to get the layup. Sure enough, we changed our scheme because I got better by watching girls basketball. And the coach was like, that's what we've been telling you. But I had to see it. I had to understand it. Right? Coach wasn't wrong. Actually. But he rolled his eyes and be like, I've taken chances. I've spoken up when I've needed to. I've thrown my towel into the ring when possible. I've been asked to run for different levels of public service. And by the way, every single time I'd step my foot into the ring, they would absolutely eviscerate me because I was such a different thinker and I was such a whatever. And I started to think to myself, like, boy, I'd really have to, I have to not just get in. I not only need my seat, I need people that are on my side, which is politics, right? So here's where we're at. I figured out where my anger is supposed to go. And I needed the playground of this, just like I had to try out for the girls' cheerleading squad. Right? Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. Am I back? Yeah, I hope I am. I am going to play with other platforms later tonight, so don't be surprised if I pop on. This is fucking awful. This is awful. This is literally awful again. Anyways, so just like I had no intention on joining the girls' cheerleading squad, I had no intention on staying angry. But I needed to play around with it to see how the other half live. I'm not used to being an angry jerk, although when I go there, I actually suffer energetically. So if I'm in a conflict, just know that I'm in a place where I already know how this is going to go, and I know how I'm going to win, whatever that means. But it takes a certain amount of energy. You know, that scene in Santa Claus 2 where the watch like drops its energy, drops its magic. I can win every argument. It's just I'm going to run out of energy before I win all the battles. So I have to be strategic in how I do it. I've been doing a lot of planning with what's going to go on with the safe haven that will become the More Than a Medium media channel. And the people that will be attached to it are second to none. They're good humans. And by the way, they're full of mistakes. They're full of challenges. They're full of, I haven't done that. But they're also full of the human spirit to be able to say, like, you know, I've never done this before, but let's do it together. Having people that can go get them. And by the way, thanks so much for all of your feedback when Black Belle was on the other day. She's an incredible person. She's an incredible artist. And when the world sees her, I'm just proud that she took the chance to say, let's do this. Right. And we recognize that this anger was supposed to embody where all of us were. And then if I espouse something that was pissed and angry, then you wouldn't have to be. But that's not how anger works. Anger is a torch that gets lit. But so is goodness. It's the same damn flame. It's just how are you going to use it? Strategically, what is actually going to go on is whatever's going on up there is going to happen. And when I say up there, it's the metaphoric. So you think you're in charge and you're the king. I also want to tell you that a lot of you are being triggered because it's a past life reliving. I want to make sure you guys heard that. A lot of people are being triggered right now because you are reliving a past life. You're going through things that you have already gone through. And then when you hear that the king is in place, all of a sudden you go, resistance is futile to the king. I love that joke because it's a feudal system. And anyways, I think at the end of the day, being blessed with the knowledge of knowing that it's eventually going to end in our country will probably look vastly different. And the idea that our consciousness is floating to the top, which is when you start to recall the idea of oppression and understand how it feels. It's not just the oppression of currently what's going on. I mean, a lot of it's very real. But has it landed in your backyard yet? Understand the trick that's been played. If I talk about a protective class that you were somewhat part of, he insulted 80% of the entire country before the election. 80% specifically, purposefully. Black, white, Hispanic, Native American, Jewish, women, 52%. Fuck you. He was rude on every level. He shows a psychopathy that you just shrug your shoulders. You're like, who let the nut job in? And by the way, don't tell me about everybody else's stuff. New rule. Since you guys like to move the bar so much on the right, and by the way, I know you guys watch this, you accidentally click and then click off. I get it. But no more saying the virtues of whatever is going on right now in comparison to the virtues of what used to go on are actually the reason why it is that it's okay that you're being an asshole or that you are wholesale eliminating rights or funding or that sort of thing. Well, the Biden administration, fuck you. You see what I did there? That's what I'm angry about. No more rule changing. That's what we're actually mad about. So in the future, if you truly believe in anything that you're talking about, and we know you don't, it's all about believing in what you need to get through the next 20 minutes. You don't get to change the dialogue because it fits your narrative. You don't get to pull up Joe Biden because he's such a failure. Statistically, historically, Joe Biden was one of the strongest presidents economically this country has ever seen. Irrefutable facts. And trust me, I looked. The idea that gets villainized without an ounce of fact check. The idea that we were actually sending money to Syria that happened to house Al Qaeda, but the money that we were sending to them was buying rice, jasmine rice, for people that had lost the breadwinner within their family. In other words, the soldiers that were killed. We were taking care of the people who we were hurting. And now it's been villainized. Oh, it's Al-Qaeda sympathizers. Well, pick the right team next time, says the person that holds the Bible upside down. President Trump, will you go and see the plane crash and talk to the victims' families? What, do you want me to swim? You want me to swim? The wiring's not there. Quit looking for it. The rationalization is gone. Quit being angry about it. What we need to get good at, and trust me, we're going to get good at this, is understanding where compassion is. Understanding what needs help and what doesn't need help. To being a president, he forgot to be a candidate. And truth be told, anybody at that age shouldn't be asked to lead a country anymore. That entire team did not do a good job in planning, succession planning or otherwise. I'm a transitional president. Oh, the election's in November. I knew there was something we meant to do. I knew it. I just knew it. I'll just run. Tax. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. It fell apart right before us. So instead of being caught with our pants down again, let's create a narrative for ourselves about how we help one another. You no longer have federal funding, but what do you need? Maybe I have it. You are no longer eligible for the protections that, we should have some sort of inalienable rights of protection, and you don't have that. How can I help you with that? You no longer have, a thriving business because it's been villainized. It's only a matter of time before they come out and say anything that is borderline occult is illegal. I'm telling you, my livelihood is at stake here. And I'm a damn good medium. I've been working at it for a long time. Everybody's got word workers. Some people are good at playing fidget spinners. Some people are really good at that. Tracy, that's the point. You're saying enforce the Constitution. It doesn't exist anymore. Quit lying to yourself. And I'm not trying to be a pessimist. They literally just said the president has immunity. And who did that? The people that said, oh, we're one of the checks and balances. And oh, yeah, they can go ahead and do that. It's like office room speak and letting people know that, you know what? Oh, yeah, on your expense report, go ahead, put that on there. That's the equivalent of it, right? Yeah, I mean, I love you for what you're saying, but at the same time, let's have a healthy dose of reality. We can't have faith in a country anymore. We just can't. We can't have faith that they're going to do the right things because they've already showed us that they haven't. We also have learned that our neighbors are wired They are wired to be pissed. They're wired because they fell for the revolt within that. They spent money on banana bread and people that wore fruits on their heads. It's funny. One of the things that was on there was, it was $30,000 going to, some country's comic book that was developed into a transgender thing, right? And it's like, we have to cut that funding. Meanwhile, I grew up watching men in tights with masks on that were superheroes, that had dynamic duos and superpowers. They had special powers. Just look into my belt. By the way, the people that are making comments on this used to use hairspray. They used to use hairspray, tease their hair up to the sky, put on eyeliner, wear fucking tight skin jeans or otherwise leather, and say, everybody else is gay is wrong. Transgender sucks. Okay, Vince Neil, you first. Like, the entire late 80s were drag queen city. By the way, part of the reason why I have these locks still is because I didn't use hairspray. I didn't have to, right? But it's incredibly, they can't take with a grain of salt the fact that they went through a phase that made them put nothing but pictures of other men with teased out hair that actually approached their femininity better than it did their masculinity. And don't tell me you were getting the girls. You weren't getting the girls. You were looking at the image of somebody. You were waking up to Bon Jovi on your wall. You were waking up, and I don't care if it's Blackie Lawless, for crying out loud. Yeah, I went deep there. Right? Hattie, I love that. Don't apologize for being scared, but let's wrap our heads around it. We can point out all the hypocrisies we want to, and we can be pissed every day of the week, twice on Sunday, but that's not that. That is not what makes us good. Do you know what makes us good? Is our kindness, our vision, our creativity. I'm sorry, you're in charge of the Kennedy Center? The dude ran the USFL into the ground. The dude wants to take over Gaza. Did we not learn anything from Atlantic City? And by the way, I'm all for a redemption story. I really, truly am. But if you don't see what the grift is, if you don't see how he's positioning himself, he opened up a digital coin for himself and his wife to pay off, by the way. Do you want the 13th green? Anyways, he created a digital currency so that then he could be immune from any of the drops associated to what's coming when we take ourselves off the US dollar. When we take us off the standard, then all of a sudden it'll be corruption and chaos. Meanwhile, all of you suckers are sitting there left holding a dollar bill. We're over here with cryptocurrency. Well, you had an opportunity. It's part of the free trade. You should have been involved. You should have been buying gold, silver, and Bitcoin. And who do you put in charge of shit like that? The richest man in the world, because he already knows how to manipulate markets. He did it to an election. I'm just speaking truth here, and I'm not even angry anymore. Not even angry. Because I see it. In the current class that I'm teaching called Conscious Becoming is amazing. It's an amazing group of people. Amazing group of people. A ragtag bunch of operatives, if I might say so myself. And you know what? They each have an incredible story. They all have challenges. They all have strengths. They all have triumph stories. And they all are intuitive. All of them. Every single one of them. And I used to look at it wrong. I used to look at talent wrong. Right? It's funny because I had a student a long time ago who was she was really, really good. But she didn't understand the business part of it. She thought she did, and she got it to a certain degree. And every single time I wanted to kind of help her along with it, there was just a lot of left-hand turns when they should have been right. And what I started to the Donald J. Trump Presidential Library Fund Incorporated started 2024. Yeah, everything's for. Everybody. It's all a grift. Thank you for pointing that out. Presidential Library Fund. First of all, in order to have an entire library dedicated to yourself, you must finish one book. You must be able to quote that book. Quote the book at least once. Yeah. One of the things that's amazing about this group is that when you're dealing with the energies of yourself, you realize that a lot of the times you're your own worst enemy. Anger makes you your own worst enemy sometimes, right? Not recognizing that you're in a loop of the same mistake over and over again is also part of that, right? And what's interesting is that when you get a bunch of people like that together, you can move mountains. So while the president of the United States was figuring out who he owed money to, or who he could manipulate, or who's vulnerable, who he had pictures of, who he had something to hold over them, who he should nominate, so then they would lose the nominations, so then they could resign because of it, so then their entire case doesn't get blown out because he's a raging pedophile. That's energy that he chose to spend. He's not making America great again. He is making America bought and sold. Just be honest. Just be honest. A radical sense of independent thinking will lead you to just one conclusion. That office, as we have suspected for years, has been bought and sold over and over again. Our hope was that we would have enough turnover in Congress and in the legislature and in the Senate to be able to say, like, well, at least we'll keep this moving along, that it's not the same pliable people over and over again. Sure, they make a little money grab, but then they move on, and then we have a new person come in, and at least they'll be altruistic for a couple of years until they get bit by the grift, right? And then, God forbid, we absolutely had complete faith that the judiciary would actually say, you know what, the Constitution is really the only thing here. We don't really care about your politics. What they should be saying is, we don't care about your politics. We just want to make sure it's here. But instead, in the dead of night, from a law from 1586 of England, not even in the United States, because the United States wasn't even a freaking thing yet, found some sort of obscure law that would overturn something that would basically find a lineage to say that your freedom of choice is no longer admissible because as a country, we can't adhere to free choice. We need to be able to make the decisions of the people because they can't morally make decisions for themselves. That's literally what the overturn of Roe v. Wade was. It was basically, you're not smart. You dumb. You can't make decision, huh? We take choice away, so you do right. Welcome. This blowback to Neanderthal time is still just beginning. So I decided not to be angry, and I decided to become a leader. Something's changed in me. I have 3 beautiful boys and raising them, my 3 sons. And I have moments with them, and I have impact on them, and I know that in the term of legacy, it's going to be, they are who they are, right? I love them to death. I wouldn't trade them in for the world, and it's amazing. On the other side of that, I also know that there is a reality. There's a reality of why I had to adopt. There's a reality that if I don't get my words out, if I don't make my impact the way I need to, it won't be through legacy of the kids, although they'll carry things on. But the DNA thing is really strong, right? The thought of DNA is incredibly strong. And when you start to gain perspective of like, hey, I'm not going to be here. No, I'm not announcing anything. Relax. I appreciate all your messages and concerns. I'm okay. Blood pressure was 120 over 72. I'm good. I'm okay. Medically treated, but still good. But I really recognize that if I want to change this, I have some really good ideas. And I channel and deliver messages to people that are in grief, to people that are in need. Why would I not? And that's on the macro side of this, right? The micro side of it, rather. The micro side of it is I sit with you and I deliver readings to you. I help you. I help an individual. I can tell you, the woman that I connected with about her, father-in-law being the, being the police chief in Vienna, and hearing that story is impactful and that's healing. It's funny. I met another person in Texas whose husband also survived. Her mother had survived the Holocaust. It's just this amazing spirit that comes through, right? We're running out of runway of freedom. We're running out of runway where it's okay to say, come to me for a reading. We're running out of runway to say, oh, I'm going to check out this message circle. Brandon's in town. We're heading headlong into a very ominous, I'm going to say ominous only because we don't know, outlooked, specific, precisioned moments in time where we can say we can do this, but not that. And then we figure out how to work within the this because we can't do that. And we end up creating something amazing, right? I talk often about what boundaries bring to us. And boundaries are super important. Let's talk on the micro level. If a boundary can be as simple as the word no, it could be as simple as these are the conditions. It could be as simple as time bound, right? Conditions, on a micro level. And when you find activity within that, you realize that those barriers that are put in place also allow you to focus in on the things you can do, should do, would do, right? Instead of having shoulda, coulda, wouldas, sometimes with this kind of broad-based thing, you actually don't know what to do, right? My challenge has been, I've got 1,000 different things. I can play drums, I can play piano, I can play guitar. I can write poetry, I can write stories, I can write. What do I do? I've got this giant platform, right? On a micro self-discipline side, I say, this is my poetry day. This is my short story day. This is my music day. And sometimes I take pieces of each one of them and I'll throw on a little Genesis, let's say, or maybe a little Night Ranger. Don't tell me you love me. Don't tell me you love me. Don't tell me I don't want to know. That song on Full Blast is just so good. Anyways, I found to learn to balance what I should focus in on so I can begin to accelerate in those things. Now, let's take this into a macro side. Let's take this into the big picture, right? You know where I want to go to? I want to go to Cuba, but I can't. So instead, I went to the Bahamas. All right. I want to go to Cuba, but instead, I might visit Key West, right? I can't do that thing, but maybe those other adventures. And by the way, the Bahamas were an incredible experience for me. I led a retreat. I did mediumship with people from around the world. It challenged me. I was able to challenge them. And I still have friends today out of it. What I'm saying is that sometimes those things that limit us give us other opportunities and other experiences. That is how we have to start looking at this. That is how we have to start looking at this abomination, administration. This is how we have to start making the change. Recognize that those limitations are actually just new ways and boundaries to help you through to get there. Oh, yeah. We can't go to Cuba. Canadians can. Canadians can hang out in Cuba all day long because you didn't have a missile crisis. Because you weren't objectively offended by the former regime of Fidel Castro. You just let them be who they are, right? But meanwhile, I also look at the things that I haven't done. I haven't been in the Dominican Republic, right? I haven't gone and mined my own Larimar. That we, oh. By the way, I'm also going to be announcing by the end of the week. I promise if I don't get it done by the end of the week, I'm going to push it off. But we are going to the Herkimer Diamond Mines out in central New York. You're all invited. It's going to be a cool kind of weekend. I'm actually lining up a show that you'll be invited to as well. It's a pretty big theater, and it's going to be a fundraiser, so it's kind of cool. But again, I can't, for whatever, it's cost prohibitive. I mean, think about the things that hold you back from going to the Dominican Republic. There's airfare. You don't want to make it a 3-day trip. You want to be able to expand a little bit more. So in the meantime, since I don't have that, then I'm going to explore down I-90 in Herkimer. I'm going to get off at exit 2020 or whatever it is. I'm going to get off there. I'm going to turn around. I'm going to pull into the highway. I'm going to sit there and, oh, by the way, I'm going to have a good time. And by the way, that's kind of also centric, and I'm going to see so many people too. Right? So sometimes our limitations actually give us experiences. So quit looking at this as in the government took this away. Cut it out. Yes, so what? Quit being angry with that. Look at the opportunity. You mean to tell me that the Department of Education is no longer in existence? Well, that gives me an opportunity to talk on a state level of what education really should be. It also gives me the opportunity to look the principal of the elementary school in my neighborhood who lives 2 doors down from me that's hanging a Trump flag, who, by the way, I have been her greatest champion. I've stood up for her. I've defended her in arguments in rooms full of people. And then she went and worshiped the Trump king. Oh, okay. I know who to hold accountable now. So what you're saying is that since we've defunded everything, and now you want to talk about this, is it because you want everything deregulated so you don't want anybody to help you? Because you can do it on your own because you're a strong, independent woman of the world that can educate everybody? I want to hear your ideas. Because once upon a time, those standards were incredibly important, and maybe they were even too low, or maybe they were unrealistic. Are teachers overwhelmed? Oh, absolutely. Is it mostly ridiculous things that really shouldn't even be taught in schools? Probably. My kid graduated high school. He doesn't know how to run a checkbook. Well, there's my opportunity. Dude, we're going to the bank and we're opening a checking account. And you and I are going to spend money, and you and I are going to do this every month. And I'm going to show you why you're in the negative, dipshit. You can't just say, oh, I still have checks, so I must have money. Right? Our education system stinks. But they're filled with amazing, great teachers. Now, get me to a point that I can be an anti-disestablishmentarianism to the system, but be pro-people. Get me to that point. What we're seeing right now is they're villainizing people. They're not villainizing a system, guys. Don't let them fool you. They don't go into USA and go, the system is broke. No, they're saying, we don't like Chuck Schumer, so the things that he vindicated for and got passed on pork belly stuff, which, by the way, is its own set of wrong. Make no mistake, this is going after the people that went after him. That's all it is. You want to be all law-abiding, and you want to go ahead and let people that were convicted by a court that said that what they did was wrong, it was trespassing, it was violence, and it was anti-constitutional for them to be able to go into the state capitol and defecate and injure and hurt, and you can come along and just go, nah, we're good. He is writing checks he can't cash, which is nothing new for him. But when everybody catches up, we need to be the vibration that holds accountable, because our system hasn't. And that's the heartbreak we've been dealing with. That's the anger we have. We thought we were a good country. We thought we were full of good people. We thought that the system would take care of itself, checks and balances, regular elections. The election was stolen. It was stolen at a minimum energetically, if not professionally. The photo op of him in the Oval Office with literally 22% of this country's wealth standing behind him is fucking disgusting. That is not we the people. It is we, us people. That's why we're mad. They've hijacked the system. Don't let them hijack the people. The people are the source of energy, everybody. You think it's money. It's not. Money is just a form of energy. And by the way, go ahead and hold up $1, right? What is it worth? It's worth nothing. Us spending time together, invaluable. Go ahead, put a price on it. One of the most difficult things that most light workers have challenges with is figuring out what to charge for. Well, I'm worth this. Well, how'd you come up with that? Well, the company I used to work for paid me this much, and therefore, nope, not how energy works. That is how they valued you. How do you value you? Well, I should be worth at least this much because my bills. Nope. Those are the commitments and the obligations that you fell head over heels for. That is your Chief Grand Cherokee. That is your monthly food bill. That is your takeout fund. That is your Uber Eats. That's not your value. That's not what you think you should be making. We confuse value with lifestyle all the time. Donald Trump is all about his lifestyle. He doesn't give a shit about value, right? That's all you need to know about that. Jefferson was 100% correct, right? Yeah, and you know, Tart and Spice, you know, the garbage men get paid more than school teachers. School teachers have to pay out of pocket for supplies. Okay. Do you remember about 20 years ago when the meme thing started and the bumper stickers? I mean, what are memes but just basically, you know, bumper sticker factories, right? Do you remember the one that says, I want to live in a world where my school is funded and national defense has to hold a bake sale? You guys remember that? I always thought that was great. I don't fully agree with it, but I think it's a good turn of events to be like, why do we have to raise money to supply the things that we need for our kids? That is solely, I mean, listen, the department, you know, that statement alone actually just made the argument as to why the Department of Education is basically insolvable and we can get away with it. So the system is broken, but the people are golden. I'm going to say it over and over again. Well, how do you have any idea how many times I would recruit teachers because I knew they were vulnerable? Teachers Retirement Fund, Teachers Union Association. There's all sorts of groups in upstate New York and Albany in particular that run stuff for the state, being close to the Capitol. They were all my clients. And they would say, go get somebody that has, we'd appreciate if somebody has some teaching experience. 2 phone calls later, I've got in one ad, I would get 35 resumes in a hot minute about teachers that were like, it's time for me to leave. Why? I have to buy my own supplies. The bureaucracy. They don't trust me to deliver the content. They tell me how to deliver the content. They're trying to make me into a cog. Meanwhile, I have all of this other world experiences. I don't just talk about Egypt. I talk about the time I went to Egypt. Those are the good teachers. Those are the amazing teachers. And oh, by the way, they sure shit didn't fund it to go over to Egypt for you to have a field trip there so you can gain knowledge, come back and share it. Why do you think adult learning is so important? Why do you think I talk about goddamn freezing? Why do you think I talk about my personal experiences all the time? Can't find it in a book. Can't find it in a book. Meanwhile, this move, make no mistake, all of this elimination, all of this slash and burn, all of this shock and awe bullshit is for you to lose your will and for us to lose our legacy. They're trying to make you forget who you are. Oh, we have bigger fish to fry all the time. They're putting you in fight or flight mode, right? I'm not falling for it, but I wanted to show what it looks like when you don't. And listen, in a moment of honesty, I was a little off the rails there, and thank you guys for some of you would check in on me and be like, "You're a little mad at me. What's up? That's not what people like you." And then I say, "It's not about being liked, it's about being right." Right? We are being given an opportunity to figure out who we are as a people, as individuals, and how we want this to look. It is falling apart. Everything they're doing is completely unsustainable. Everything. So do we go in there and try and help them sustain it? The only thing that's sustainable for them is to fight. Now, on the other side of it, people will say, oh, they want you to just quit and disengage and whatever. That just makes it easier for them. They are going to kill one another. They are going to eat themselves. It is an unsustainable thing because when we don't feed it, they will eat each other. It's a thing. It's a proven thing. It also, unfortunately, happened when every single empire collapsed. I guess I'm just telling you the truth. Right? Have you ever seen somebody... Have you ever seen somebody make or do something because they were angry? Right? Does that make sense? You know, so somebody might get mad and they might say, you know what? I want to recognize that sometimes my motivation was, you know, I found out that I was mentioning a student earlier, that basically wholesale took every idea that I had or created me as their villain, which is hysterical. Because, you know, you can call me, you know, megalomaniac or narcissistic or whatever, that I was their biggest champion. But they had to turn me into the enemy because they couldn't actually have anybody cheer for them. Certainly not anybody like me. And that's realistically where they were stuck, and they never did that work, right? But they moved from a source of anger, and that anger has to kind of morph itself. And maybe they learn lessons within that. Maybe they drive to a better place. But they're how do I want to say this? One of the things that we recognize in energy value is that anger is a great source of change, but it is not a great motivator for the change. In other words, you could be mad that, you know, all of your ice cream cones that you buy are horrible, and you might want to open up your own ice cream stand. But your anger alone is not going to do that. You still need a business plan. You still need to know how to make ice cream. You still need to know. You have to have the discernment of saying, I'm gonna have the determination to get this right, which anger can sometimes help out. But on the other side of it, you also don't want to be in a position where, boy, if I'm not angry, then I'm not fueled today. Then you continuously look to be angry. That's my point. These people are angry. They're not well. They don't represent our species. What they are is figuring out new ways to be angry. In one post, they took out DEI, transgender, Al-Qaeda. What was the other thing? But it was just like, it was 5 talking points of, you're going to be pissed at one of these things. And they're sitting there saying, you can't believe the news anymore. Well, they report this, and what they don't realize is that they are the fish. They're the fish with the hook in the mouth. They are wholesale, without a doubt, preaching about how we're so ignorant because we don't know the truth, that they're sitting there spewing such a cognitive dissident lie. And by the way, it's probably not a lie on its surface, so they're able to run with it. But if they pull it apart to villainize it, they would have realized that everything that they posted was about humanitarian aid. Oh, and by the way, there was nobody being nefarious about it. It had full disclosure 4 months earlier in a report. Their homework had been done for them. They just didn't want it in the package of not being angry. Anger will either turn on one another or it'll die out and say, I'm sorry, what was I doing there? But we got a long way to go before we get there. Long way to go. And I will not be a part of it. I will not feed into that. You get to my door, game on. Game on. Right? Ooh, you're having Edie's Vanilla Bean. It's kind of cool. So I told this joke the other night. I know I'm sharing, but the first time I ever had a three-way, I know I'm going there. First time I ever had a three-way was with Ben and Jerry. I look like I'm drunk. Anybody else seeing this? So the punchline is the first three-way I ever had was with Ben and Jerry. Yeah, I know. I know, Janet. You know what I'm going to do? So listen, I'm going to do a couple of testings here tonight. I'm going to wrap up right here. And I'm going to actually try out a couple of other things, and maybe I'll jump out there. I'm not going to have content per se, but if you guys want to kind of give me some feedback, and maybe I'll talk about stuff or whatever. I got to try new things, so I'm narrowing things down, and I'm beginning to think that our old friend here, StreamYard, is not helping. Right. Anyways, I just want you guys to know that note your anger. It's not a fuel. And by the way, I'm not saying you can't be angry. I'm not trying to control your emotions. I just want you to do something with it that's proactive and positive in the end. I want you to not look at these things as limitations that keep us from things, but rather make us be creative in the new things we're supposed to discover. You know, it's like not having cardboard, but having a art assignment due tomorrow at 9. Sometimes you got to find the other things, right? Julie just upped her game. Julie upped her game and said, wow, I've had a 4-way, Snap, Crackle, and Pop, and me. Did you just Rice Krispie us? I think you did. All right, guys. Thank you so much. I'm going to pop back on and off because I want to see if there's other things that won't make me freeze. I'm that frustrated. So being frustrated, instead of saying, oh my gosh, I freeze all the time, blah, blah, blah. This is a consistent problem. It is only on this network. It is only in this situation. So I'm going to find alternatives and I'm going to change something. Look at that. I'm frozen again. Holy shit. Go figure. Doesn't make me a medium. Guys, I'm going to give you the heart tap. Remind you guys to love and care for one another and to remember to simply keep going. I'll see you guys soon. And I'll talk to you. I think I'm going to squeeze one in possibly even tomorrow night. Stay tuned. Either if I'm not on Tuesday, I'll definitely be on Wednesday. I'll talk to you guys soon. And again, look for me to go out there and give me some commentary on some other softwares that I'm about to try because I need to. Talk to you soon. Take care, guys.